Portland, Oregon clears their Antifa protest camp outside of the ICE building just days after a noise ordinance lawsuit filed. Remember the young lady with the cane who just absolutely launched in the middle of the night against Antifa? And Antifa told her to stick her cane. And she said, no. City of Portland got wind of that lawsuit because they were named as a defendant. And they decided, oh, maybe we need to put a little stoppy stop to this encampment outside of the ICE facility. Let's get into it. Here we go.
New at 5, brand new video outside the ICE facility in South Portland showing camps have been cleared out and protesters gone. This happened in the last several hours. When our crews were there earlier in the day, we did see camps and tarps and other supplies. Well, now it's all gone. Portland police say they don't clear camps, but do provide security during these actions.
And protesters have been there for a month now, and the camp has been causing commotion with neighbors who have complained about the noise. And we want to toss it now in one neighbor filing a lawsuit against the city to try to get them to enforce that ordinance. K2's Christina Giardinelli joins us live outside the ICE facility now. And so, Christina, that camp is completely gone?
Yeah, as you guys mentioned, the tarps, the supplies, they were stacked up to here on this fence. There were about a dozen people that were staying here every day for the past month, as you mentioned, and then you saw in that video.
Unbelievable.
Clearing out that camp. Just a couple hours ago, we were here talking to some of those protesters about the lawsuit you mentioned. It was filed by a neighbor just across the street over noise she said is coming from these protests. Sounds like this. At all hours of the night, prompting a lawsuit filed against the city by Cloud Elvengrail. She lives across the street from where a group of protesters has been camped outside the ICE facility in South Portland.
Wow, close.
Elvengrail's lawyer, Julie Parrish, says the loud noises caused her client medical issues.
She's got injury in both ears right now, and she's got some ringing in her ears that won't stop, and then some other physical symptoms.
The lawsuit aims to get the city to enforce its noise ordinance. It claims residents have called PPB about the noise often, but says they're not taking serious action.
The lawsuit's really about asking the city why. Why aren't you coming to help the people in this community who are experiencing this? This is beyond free speech. This is not protected speech.
One of the protesters, Griffin, says many neighbors have supported the protests.
From what I've heard from the neighbors that I've seen, because I am local here, we've got a lot of support from the neighboring community, and they know.
Those are the neighbors that are just out of earshot of what's going on, because the noises coming out of this. So what happens is when ICE officials have to leave, somebody drives outside of the facility, they open up their gates, and Antifa just blasts a bunch of sound, and they try and stop the vehicles from leaving, and they just have these incredibly loud, basically an LRAD device, which is shoots sound that's so loud that it, drives people away from wherever, the sound is being issued. And so I can't imagine you're a neighbor in the community and you're like, oh yeah, that's great. I mean, I love being woken up at 3:00 in the morning to just some shrill, terrible, terrible noise, because the worse, the better, right? You're trying to make ICE leave their own ICE building. If that makes sense, that's how, mentally challenged these people are. They're just, one flew over the cuckoo's nest, kind of just crazy. Antifa is crazy. And what does leadership in Portland do? We stand in solidarity with protesters' ability to protest, even if that means violating noise ordinance in a wild, wild way. These massively loud sounds that are being emitted from devices from Antifa in the middle of the night, way past 10 o'clock. So this guy here, he's just lying. I mean, as most Antifa, when they open up their mouths, they lie. I mean, because they have to, because they have no basis in reality that anybody's going to support or buy.
Exactly why we're here.
Can I show you the video that they were using as evidence?
Sure.
See what you think of it?
Oh, I'm much more disturbed by the dozens of armed men coming out of that building to what? Clear a driveway? I have no idea what's happening here. But
What about did you hear that sound though? That
yeah,
squeaking
the
sound.
sound doesn't disturb me as much as the Gestapo.
The protest
Well, it should, because if it wasn't ICE making those noises. It was Antifa. So the guy's just lying. Just absolutely lying. And that's standard procedure. So what it took was this woman to basically just have an absolute meltdown and file a lawsuit. What if she hadn't filed that lawsuit? Would this still be going on? Absolutely. Because why wouldn't it? And there wasn't any real confrontation when they cleared out this encampment. It was like, I guess we got to go figure out our next move. Hey, Mom, I'm coming back. The encampment got shut down. I'll be in the basement in like 30 minutes, okay? Could you have my favorite bowl of soup ready? I'm disappointed we can't, pretend that we're adults on a street here outside an ICE building.
camp is not a monolith, though, and some, like Tracy Molina, would like to improve their relationship with neighbors.
And how long can we resist what ICE is doing to our families if we don't have the neighbor support?
As an Indigenous person, she says she's working with her relatives to change the environment at the protest camp so that it does not detract from her goal of protecting immigrants in ICE custody.
What's happening in our communities is like people are afraid to go to the...
You mean criminal illegals are being deported and that's terrible? Okay. I mean, all right. Whatever.
Now, it's unclear whether or not that camp will be back. I am not sure. We've reached out to try and find out if it has been cleared before. We'll have to monitor this in the future and see what comes of it. We did reach out to the city. They declined to comment on the lawsuit. In the past, Portland Police Bureau says they are trying to balance the need for protecting free speech while also enforcing the city's ordinance and the community's safety. We'll continue following this. For now, live in South Portland, Cristina Giartinelli, KHC News.
All right, Christina, thank you. And now some developing news here. The Department of Homeland Security says 2 organizations illegally doxed ICE officials in Oregon.
Yeah, that's another podcast I just got through recording. So what this came down to is a citizen had to stand up for herself because elected officials in Portland wouldn't. They wouldn't do anything about massively loud noises in the middle of the night to their constituents who are trying to sleep. Yeah. No air conditioning in the low-income housing that the individual who filed the lawsuit, so she had to have her window open. How do you think that worked out? Been pretty hot lately here in the Pacific Northwest. Yeah. Terrible. Just absolutely terrible. City of Portland cleared a small protest camp that's been stationed outside the ICE facility for a month on Friday afternoon. That was a month of unnecessary nonsense coming out of Antifa. But this is on the elected officials. This is on Portland Mayor, who's just a total pansy, and also on the city council. This is what they wanted, and this is what they got. And then all of a sudden, when somebody launches a lawsuit, I guess there's a little bit of attention to this. Guess we better enforce the law, because they're okay with Antifa just basically blasting away at ICE, who is literally deporting criminal illegals from the community. Whatever. Came days after a woman living across the street from the camp filed a lawsuit alleging the city failed to enforce its noise ordinance. Yeah, they did. KATU crews were at the camp interviewing protesters at 2 p.m. when they returned at 4 p.m. 2 hours is all it took. The camp had been cleared. It's like these are children. Antifa are children. And if you allow children to get wildly out of control, then that's what they do. You know what I mean? You allow children to play at adults, they're going to come up with some wildly contrived nonsense that doesn't make a ton of sense. And that's what this was. And so it's up to the adults in the room to basically take control and say, no, you can't blast your LRAD after 10 p.m. because that's a violation of the noise ordinance. That simple. If I got out there at the middle of the night with a lawnmower, say at midnight, started mowing a lawn, don't you think the police would come along and stop me? Mm-hmm. They would. But if I, in the name of, hammering on ice, go out there with a loudspeaker and start screaming, that's okay. That's all right. It's whacked. This is absolutely whacked. But this has been going on for years. This is how it was before. In 2020. Portland is super pro-Antifa because freedom of speech, even when it violates the rights of its citizenry to have a good night's sleep, to be able to not sleep with the windows open where tear gas is streaming in because they've had to shoot tear gas canisters out into the crowd to dispel them. Video provided to KATU shows the camp being cleared with Portland Police Bureau officers standing by. Portland Police Bureau would not confirm that it participated in the camp's cleanup. We don't clear camps. Sometimes we stand by for security while people of the city contracts with us do so, Portland Police Bureau spokesman said in an email response to KATU's inquiry. Spokesperson for the city declined comment. Why can't you just say, hey, we're okay with Antifa breaking the law, and that's why we allow it to happen. And oops, we got caught with our pants down, and this woman filed a lawsuit, and we had to react because we knew politically it was a bad, bad look. We're just screwing our own residents so that we can virtue signal this whole nonsense with the ICE raids. Yeah. Lawsuit. I looked at this lawsuit. Boy, it is in depth. I mean, this bad boy goes on for pages and pages and pages. We've got maps. We've got, pictures. Then we get down to phone calls that are being made. Where is that? Down here, you got screenshots of phone calls being made to 911, outgoing call. I mean, it just keeps on going. So could this have been handled easily, literally months ago? Absolutely. And why didn't it? Well, because Portland leadership is in love with the idea of basically trying to interrupt ICE from doing its job, deporting criminals from their community. While playing the video during an interview, Parrish noted that the noise is often broadcast at all hours of the night, causing her client distress. She's now got some undocumented or documentable injuries in her ears. Parrish claimed Evan Grail, that's the woman who filed the lawsuit, felt pain in her ears during one of the nights when the noise was particularly loud and said she then discovered blood in her ear. Said the lawsuit is not seeking any financial compensation, but is an attempt to get the city to respond to residents' calls about the noise levels. All right, so those of you living in other communities where this is going on, I know some of it's going on in Los Angeles, but for the most part, this has been literally the poster child of Antifa, doing their thing, which is playing that they're adults and they're really having an impact on something. If you watch the footage of these lunatics from Antifa, they'll come dressed in all black. They have masks on because they know they're committing crimes and they don't want anybody to identify them. And then they'll have these, self-made shields that are held together with tape. Like duct tape, black duct tape. What kind of shield is that? Going to go into combat with a self-made plastic shield made out of a cut-up garbage can because it's kind of got a rounded shape to it? Literally. It's like drama, right? Except you're interfering with law enforcement of the federal variety. And since when is that okay? It's really about asking the city why. Why aren't you coming to help the people in this community who are experiencing this? This is beyond freedom of speech. This is not protected speech, the attorney Parrish said. A video that's been widely shared on multiple social media platforms shows Elvin Grail confronting protesters. That's the one that I've showed over and over and over again. And I'm not gonna anymore because it's pretty easy to find. Just type in Elvin Grail. Confronting protesters over the noise. In the video, she could be heard yelling expletives. Yeah, and rightfully so, and insults at protesters, to which they respond with insults and expletives. It's what happens when children are involved. They F you back, stick that cane up your ass. And you're left with, oh, okay, all right, so we're really getting somewhere here. Stick the cane up your ass. Okay, all right. Yeah, that is constructive. That's positive. That's really getting us where we need to go. On the night that her ear, started bleeding, was causing her significant pain, she'd called 911 multiple times. They didn't show up. And she went as a self-help measure to try and go and get them to be quiet. Oh, brutal. So she's on the phone calling 911. They don't come because, this really isn't a big deal. What's the problem? You can't sleep? Sorry about that. Freedom of speech. Paris said, noting that the video was taken and posted without her client's knowledge. Okay, well, it had the intended impact because everybody went, whoa, that's some nuts going on. Paris said Elvin Grail is not against the protesters' cause. The lawsuit points out that she did not vote for President Donald Trump, not a shocker, who has pushed for an increase in deportations. She just wants to be able to go to sleep, as everybody should have the right to do so, right? While some protesters feel Elvin Grail's anger is misplaced, against who, for what, why, and should be directed at ICE. No, I don't think so. They're not the ones making the sound. Others like to see the camp build better relationships with their neighbors. From what I heard here from the neighbors, this was that one guy who was just a loser too. When shown the video, he came up with a loser response. The only reason people out here is because of the abuses and crimes that are being committed, unfortunately, by the government. Which ones are those? Which abuses and crimes are they committing? Show me one. Reference one. Give me an idea what you're talking about, because I'm not seeing it. This is just nonsense. This is people bitching at ICE from the sidewalk and Portland letting them, until it got so bad somebody launches a lawsuit, and then the city's like, maybe we have some liability here. We got to do something. Tracy Molina lives near the camp and has participated in the protest. This was the last woman we saw interviewed. She said she understands the neighbors' frustration and pointed out the people at the camp are not a monolith. Okay, no, but they're making some really loud damn noise, aren't they? I think that if I lived here, I'd have the same concerns, but the problem is a lot of us here defend our families and our communities, and some people are coming for, I don't know the reasons. And I don't know the reasons why they couldn't care about the neighbors. If I had full control of what happens here, it would be quiet after 10 o'clock. Okay, yeah, but you don't. And really, would you, if you're in control, you'd be like, full bore, let's go. Let's blast that at 3 a.m., because people need to sleep and rest. They do. And how long can we resist what ICE is doing to our families if we don't have the neighbor support? Well, you don't have the neighbor support. They sued the city, and here you are now, swept from that block. Molina said she is an indigenous tribe from Mexico and has been adopted by the indigenous communities in Oregon. Okay, alrighty then. She feels the people who are disruptive during protests are not fully aware of those realities faced by the immigrant community. Okay, all right. Just so much nonsense. KATU crews have visited the camps on various occasions. During daytime visits, the majority of protesters have appeared welcoming and eager to talk, although some have taken issue with cameras being present because they don't want to be filmed doing illegal actions that could be held against them. On one occasion, when KE2 crew was on site after dark, some masked individuals in the camp yelled racial slurs at the crew and chased them back to their car while carrying sticks. Again, children are playing at adults. We need law enforcement to step in and absolutely clean their clocks. Portland police aren't allowed to do that because leadership in Portland is fickle. Lawsuit claims Evelyn Grail, who is disabled and does not drive, has been forced to walk by combative protesters to get to the bus stop. It claims fumes from tear gas sprayed on protesters by Portland Police Bureau and/or federal agents have seeped into her apartment and made her ill. It further alleges the commotion has triggered her PTSD. And this is all something that could have been stopped by Portland leadership, allowing the Portland Police Bureau to simply do their jobs, enforce the laws on record, kind of just like the whole thing with Biden and how he said, well, we had this legislation that Republicans voted down and a bunch of Democrats that would have really helped us, cinch up the border. And that didn't go through. But then when Trump gets in office and he closes the border down by 95% of all illegal crossings, you kind of go, I see how this works. This makes absolute sense. It doesn't matter until it does. And then Portland, with one fell swoop, inside of 2 hours. So, the mayor saw that. The mayor's underling is reading the news and they go, yo, mayor, we got one here. They're suing us. Maybe it was the mayor's attorney. Who knows? Gets the lawsuit and goes, oh, this isn't good. This isn't going to look good. We don't have a case here. This should have never happened. Who allowed this to happen? Just throwing everybody under the bus. And then they decide, well, what should we do? Should we allow them to keep going? Freedom of speech. And then the mayor's contacts their attorney and says, do we have liability? And the attorney says, yeah, you got breach of the peace. What the F are you doing? And the mayor goes, all right, send in a crew. Let's clear it out. Department of Transportation, clear it out. They're on federal property. They're on street property. They're whatever. Clear it out. And when they get there, Antifa just basically doesn't even bend over. They just walk away. Just walk away. Just, because otherwise we see footage of them being upset and they're like, literally, just got to go home to my mom's basement now. That's where we're going. No more protests for me. Oh, sucks. Yeah, that's how simple it is to deal with Antifa. You just basically very minimally push back. And because they are children playing in adulthood, there's not much resistance. Wild story. All right. But the bottom line is, if you're in a city where this kind of thing is happening, maybe try a little lawsuit. Get somebody to wants their name out there for business. Get them to do it pro bono. A lawsuit against the city. See what happens. This did not take long. This was a matter of days, right? That lawsuit's filed. Encampment gone. Wild stuff. Wild stuff coming out of Portland. All right. That's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. I'd love to have you subscribe if you haven't already. That notification bell, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.